Hey, I am Hannah. You are listening to Survey 7, Episode 7 of the 50 Surveys Project. The goal is to tear down 50 surveys in 50 days, 50 marketing surveys, and really focus on asking better questions. The art of asking better questions, not just asking questions for the sake of collecting better, useful, profitable, actionable data. Today's teardown is of the YouTube famous one question survey or YouTube ad survey teardown. If you've been on YouTube at all, which I am, I'm sure we all are, YouTube is awesome. You will probably recognize this survey. So let's get into it. All right, it looks like this. This is a sample of one of the surveys. Sometimes there's a screen, or maybe all the time there might be a screen right before leading into the survey, or the survey just pops up. Which of these skincare brands have you seen online video advertising for recently? And then they list them here. Another example, which of these TV brands? So they're checking to see what you've seen. Potentially also checking like recency effect. What do you remember seeing? It's not really clear what it is that they are looking for in this. I mean, obviously the question is useful and I'm presumably helping them better target. But let's dig into what users are saying before we dig into the teardown itself. All right, so I went on a little hunt and you'll see the lovely Reddit here. We've got some pretty colorful thoughts and feedback. I will never answer a YouTube survey ever. It fills me with rage. Every time I press the skip survey button, it makes me feel more indignant and spiteful. And so there's clear awareness that this is like about making better, more targeted ads. Every time I skip the survey, they gather more data about how stubborn and spiteful I am. I fill them out with the wrong answers. Hopefully they get the message. So not a ton of fans here, but this is obviously a really small sample size. The reason I'm bringing it up is because, so we've only got one question in that survey, right? And yet it's like warranted a thread. Not too great of a measure because people have opinions about absolutely everything, and YouTube is giant and huge and hugely impactful, and so people are bound to speak up. But what's really interesting is that they're aware that this is like, the surveys are there just to target ads to you. Exactly, I so badly do not want targeted ads to exist, so you prefer untargeted ads. So there's a clear awareness that this is about and for ads. What I find interesting is like it's a single question, right? So let's go back into this mode here. It's a single question that we're asking, and it's warranting a lot of reaction, and I want to take a look at why. So if we look at the question here, which of these skincare brands have you seen online video advertising for recently? I've done my own sample, and folks I have talked to about do not like this question and also don't see the value of it. There's nothing really about this that I'm weighing in on. I kind of feel when I read this question like I'm being tested. Do I remember what I'm seeing? Should I be seeing certain things? Am I missing something? It's not clear the use case for this. Whereas if a question said, which of these skincare brands do you want to see online video advertising for recently, or do you not want to see? Of course, that's going to change the question intent and the goal of the question, of course, the data you're collecting, and that might not meet the needs that YouTube has. But this kind of trips me up because which of these skincare brands have you seen online video advertising for recently? So should I have seen all of them, or all of them around? Is this checking like recency effect, what I remember? I think that kind of insight would be really helpful. If knowing that this is presumably to help target better ads, if you create a survey that will help people help you, help them, and make that clear, it's very different, right? You get people to actually like participate in and want to give feedback. Now, This is like a single survey, a single question, takes 2 seconds, right? Like not even, it's just a click, and you can skip it altogether. So the cost isn't that great. And also there's a volume. I mean, sure, you can assume a bit of a buffer for like people mindlessly clicking. I've actually never got a question like this on YouTube where I've found one of these. I've also had questions in surveys that are like, which have you seen last, or something like that. I can't remember the details, but I've never found one that's like that is maps to my experience. It's saying something relevant. The brands are always like, I have no idea. I mean, I haven't seen these. I don't recognize them. There's no connection that I'm making between the brands that they're listing here and the question that makes sense to me. And I think that if we encourage people to participate in the survey, it helps to give them a sense of what they're participating in, so that they can like weigh into the question. They can actually like understand where it's coming from, and giving relevance and creating relevance is really important, right? It isn't so significant when the survey is so like brain dead easy, but often when it is so easy, it encourages people to mindlessly participate. It's just so easy. Fine, I'll fill it out. Or sometimes it'll be like stuck on the screen and I'll pause and think about it. So the positioning is great. Timing is really great. It's right in front of this video that I'm excited to watch. But it just kind of comes out of left field. Like there's not a lot here that I feel like they're asking about me. They're asking more about like, what is showing up on my like personalized platform. But I don't feel like they're asking for my input into the ads or helping me see more personalized, targeted ads that are going to improve me. And maybe that's not the case, and that's totally fine. But I think that a question like that might warrant sharper data. This feels like something that could be more like, okay, we know these people are seeing are receiving these ads, unless here the goal is to check like what the user remembers seeing. So yeah, it's not really clear, and I think transparency into the goal of the survey helps. Again, it helps the participant figure out how to answer, right? So the more clarity and context, the more that the participant can kind of think with you and then weigh in and actually be inclined to weigh in and not muddy it up with negative data. Of course, this is all, we're taking a single question here, and sometimes the accuracy of the question works for the data we need. Obviously, YouTube is a giant, incredible platform, and the volume of data that they're getting is huge, right? Like 2 billion users. So these kind of nuances could arguably be not as important. But when you're putting in front of that many people, there's much more room to get people annoyed and not thinking and clicking anything. And so accuracy of data quality can have more potential to get diluted and go down. So more attention to those nuances is really helpful. All right, so we know that relevance matters. It makes the survey feel less annoying, also improves the user experience, and especially if they're participating in the outcome, like knowing that they are going to be seeing ads. At least now they'll see things that are helpful for them. I saw a tweet, I think a month ago or so, where a woman was like, oh, she looked something up, and now she looked it up intentionally so that she would get like retargeting ads that show her all of the best options and kind of curate, so she doesn't actually have to do the search for her. So there are people, and many of them, who like ads, who appreciate ads. I feel like ads are great if they're relevant and they're targeted. And so if we can collect data in a way that the user is like on board with giving the data, like, hey, this data is actually going to serve me later on, that's really helpful. Again, might not be relevant for what YouTube needs. And all of these teardowns, all of them need to be taken with several grains of salt. The insight here that I'm offering might not match with the goals of the survey. So we just really need to keep that in mind. But survey length and timing matter more. So as much as people might not like the survey, they might feel annoyed at the survey, if the survey is short in this case, one question. And if the timing of the survey is like at the front or the back of an existing event, it's very likely that people will participate. So as much as people might not like the survey, whether they've decided to go to Reddit and talk about it or not, I'm sure that clearly they're doing these surveys because they're getting data, right? So when you have volume, you can kind of afford to be a bit more slack on the quality or kind of, you can afford to be more slack on like the entertainment factor of the question. But again, having a boring question or a flat question often also eliminates the possibility for like a user to really understand what you're doing and give you that quality insight. So but this is to say that when you have a smaller audience that you're working with, relevance absolutely matters. I would argue relevance always matters. If you can make it feel relevant to the user, why not? They will actually help you. But survey length, survey timing does matter often more. You can get away with potentially annoying questions, even if they're data accurate in terms of how they're phrased, because of timing and because of length. So couple examples to help. I really encourage the one question survey. It's such a quick entry point, low friction, really easy to slip in, and you can do it piggybacking on an existing event. So right after a lead signs up to your list on that thank you page or confirmation page, before or as a customer cancels, as long as you're not interrupting that customer journey, if they're wanting to opt out, right after they buy to understand the buying experience or what helped them flip that decision. In terms of product use, when they cross a certain threshold of usage, often in the app, there might be like an automated trigger to ask them for additional feedback after a refund request, which is similar to after a customer cancels, before they do a lead abandon cart. This is why like polls, on-site polls work really well, especially when you have like an e-commerce site. I've helped set up polls for clients where when there is a product page abandoned or a cart page, shop page abandoned, to set up a one question poll on there or even on the homepage. So when you're trying to understand traffic and who's coming to the page, there are different polls you can set up there. So all of these like one questions that just tag on to an existing event, an existing experience, and ask people about the experience that they're already in as they are in it. So you're getting the closest time to the actual event, minimizing any minimizing kind of poor recall, and it's one question, right? So often you might not like want to ask, you might not feel like, oh, I really like participating in the survey, but you can answer like very quickly. You might you're already on your way out of the page, this pops up and maybe you throw down an answer. And we do often I've gotten with clients really great results this way, really quick snippets of data and insight, even with open text questions as opposed to the multiple choice, for a one question that is tacking on to an existing event. I hope that's helpful. Takeaway is to pay attention to relevance where possible, regardless, ideally, of your sample size or the kind of user base that you're able to target. But positioning, length of the survey matters. So if you break things up into multiple one question surveys across the buyer journey, across the user journey, you're going to have more success. I've seen more success too in my work with clients as well, when you can kind of chunk out that process and really remove the burden of like, okay, I have to sit down and complete a full survey. That's it for today. Hope that was helpful. Pop in the comments any questions that you have. Let me know what one question surveys you're doing. I like to call these by the way surveys, that they're already like they kind of follow an existing event. Let me know what by the way surveys you are up to that you're doing. And I will see you tomorrow for survey teardown number 8.